are you still in the industry too, or are you out?
In catering, a little bit still.
Okay.
In fact, I did a job last night, and I've only done two in the last year.
Oh
I
wow.
think
Okay.
because of everything shut down because of the pandemic. So last
Yeah.
March it stopped, and then uh, yeah, I worked like a month ago at Persian wedding, and
Oh,
then and last night I think was also a Persian wedding
oh,
for
cool.
this caterer. Yeah, so a little bit. I don't mind it, doing it
Yeah.
sometimes, and like anything else, you do it too much, it burns you out, kind of. And it just depends who you work for too. Like some of the companies are fine, and
Yeah.
most of the people I work with are great. I enjoy working with them. There's just the few bad apples that make the orchard stinky. I
Oh
say.
yeah. Really. So how long have you been in catering then, or in the industry?
At least almost 30 years, I think, because I started it in New York.
Okay.
Um, uh, I was probably 24 or something like that because I was trying to go into acting, and that was like a good side temporary thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I was also 24, so like 30 years about, yeah.
Okay.
In New York first, but the last 19 years in California.
Okay.
So those are
What
the
part of
two.
California are you in now?
I'm in the Valley. I'm in Van Nuys. I don't know
Okay.
if you know. It's I was in North Hollywood for 5 years. So it's like half hour from LA,
Okay.
um, 10 minutes from Burbank. Yeah, but Southern California.
Nice. Okay. That's cool.
Yes, I also do serving and also bartending. I tended to do more bartending in New York. I never worked in a bar. I
Okay.
worked, house parties, weddings, office parties. So for caterers, um, I did one restaurant I worked in for like 3 months. We had to make our own, like for lunch, if they ordered drinks, we had to make them. Like we were our own bartenders. We'd go in the kitchen and make whatever, or the little area. And it was funny. I had just finished like a 2 week bartending course. I remember back then. That was before internet and all that. So now you can just learn anything online. But I took the 2 week course and it was good. I didn't know anything at first. So, and we learned how to make old fashions. And
Okay.
I think no one's going to order an old fashioned. And sure enough, the first lunch shift I worked, someone ordered an old fashioned.
I've worked in those places where it's like, okay, I can only do one thing well.
Yeah. It depends on again the event. Sometimes I would prefer to bartend, and sometimes I prefer to do the food, and serve. Yeah, you do both also?
I've managed, served, and bartended, but I like serving the most. I feel like when you're bartending, of course it depends on the place, but I feel like when I've been bartending, sometimes you're held hostage behind the bar, and like I need to keep moving and not be bogged down with one person, you know?
Yeah, I feel it's a little more stressful sometimes to bartend too. There's a little more
Yeah,
pressure sometimes. Yeah, so
you got the server tickets and the customers and stuff. So,
yeah,
what's your favorite thing about the catering industry, or what's kept you in it for that long?
the the F word, flexibility.
Really?
Because it's I can if I need work that week, there is a lot of it because if I work for different caterers and stuff.
Sure.
If I have to cancel the day before, if you have an audition or you book a commercial or whatever, uh, you can do. In a restaurant, it's harder to do that. If we work for caterers, it's easier. Um, so that's one of the main. And I went and shot my own film for a month, and I'm able to come back and I have this work waiting if I need it and stuff. So that's good. Also, another F is the free food. And in my book, I talk about a lot of, even though the title of my book is very negative, there's a lot of positive things I talk about, and those are some of them. Also, the like free concerts we get to see, which are really cool.
Nice.
Like one of my favorite singers was Olivia Newton-John, and about 12 years ago, we were setting up for an event and setting the tables, and the band is warming up, rehearsing, and all of a sudden I hear this woman start singing "Let's Get Physical, Physical," and I'm like, "Wow, she sounds a lot like Olivia Newton-John." And I turn around and there's Olivia Newton-John in t-shirt and jeans and rehearsing and warming up with the band, and so that was really cool. And then I snuck back in later when they actually put on the show, which we weren't supposed to be in. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of Cyndi Lauper and just free concerts because they're part of whatever the entertainment that's been hired for that event. So
Yeah.
that I love music too. So that's a big plus.
Same
What
here.
else? People you work with a lot of fun, interesting people. Some are
Sure.
crazy, but a good kind of crazy. A few are the bad kind of crazy. But um, I think the people you're working with are just fun people and they're creative and so a lot of the people I do catering with I've done film work with or commercial work with, and I put in my own projects. So yeah.
That's really cool. What is your biggest pet peeve about the catering or like customers you've had or coworkers, I guess?
Okay, well, pet peeves about caterers is how much food they waste and throw out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. With with coworkers, maybe someone coined the term ODCs, off-duty captains. So people who aren't in charge but think they are,
Wow.
and then the people that are in charge. Sometimes I say there's too many chiefs on too much opium. You know, they're all telling you different things. You know, so that's miscommunication and just people that don't know what they're doing, but they're in charge. Which
Yeah.
I guess that's in a lot of industries or a lot of things. Of guests, you know, if you're passing a tray of food and they take their garbage or the napkin and they throw it on there, like, you know, something like that. Or the guest that takes like 3 or 4, you know, when you have a room of 500 people, but they think they can eat all the food, or real special requests at a huge event, you know, but they want some kind of special service that you just can't give at this kind of event. And I kind of joke about this, but I say if people have a certain number of allergies, like after a certain point, you just need to stay home because we can't serve you anything.
Right. You can eat this napkin and that's about it.
The ones that really keep staying even though the party's over, you know,
Yeah.
you're
Oh
just
man.
waiting for those 3 people to leave so you can go home. And
So you can start
so
vacuuming or sweeping or whatever the hell it is.
yeah, there's a line in the Caddyshack. I don't know if you ever saw that movie years ago. Um, and Ted Knight is like I guess the owner of the country club, and the guests have been there all weekend, Friday, Saturday, lunch, dinner, and it's like 2 in the morning on Sunday, and he finally goes, "Don't these people have homes?" You know, like, and that line is so funny.
Do you feel like everyone kind of pulls their weight or
Yeah, not everyone does. And it's funny, like if you have a good captain, a person in charge, they can kind of oversee. They can see who's not working, and they can. Certain people have to be told what to do, and certain people are take initiative. You know,
right?
and they just do. They know what they're supposed to do. Some people know what they're supposed to do, but still don't do it. Some people really don't know, and they have to be told, and then they'll do it. They have no problem doing it. Um, there was one guy that used to work with us. He would work harder at not working than working. Like he would literally walk around a table 4 times, and there was 2 tables 2 plates to pick up, let's say, and bus, and he would spend more time not bussing it than bussing it. Or we would be standing in line to pick up hors d'oeuvres to go serve, and all of a sudden he'd be like second in line at the front of the line, and then all of a sudden he'd be in the back of the line again before he gets to the front. Like he went out of his way. He was one of the laziest workers. So yeah, not everyone pulls their weight, and it's, you know, it's not fair to the other people. And again, I know that probably happens again in many other industries and stuff. But in that one in particular, you have these, you know, you kind of have to work together. And, um, you know, if this table's not being served, if I have this table and that server's not serving that table, and now I'm distracted and I have to help serve that table, my table's not getting good service, you know, so, or the service they should be getting. So that's a pet peeve, I guess, too, the people that don't
Yeah.
pull their own weight. So we'll rewind and go back to that question. I'll add that.
Yeah, right. It is funny. I've definitely worked with those people too that work harder at not working than actually doing their job. It's like you're amazing actually at doing nothing. So do you guys tip pull then when you do the catering, or is it like an hourly plus tips, or how does that work for the catering as a whole?
Yeah, well, I know for bartenders, they'll usually do pool the tips among the bars. If you're the wait staff, you don't usually get tips. Uh, it's usually an hourly. Let me rephrase. It depends on. Sometimes you work house parties and it's a wage. The hourly rate might be 20 to 25, or sometimes even 30 an hour. And then if it's house parties, a lot of times the host will give a tip, or the caterer will get the tip and give it to you. Some caterers. Oh, another pet peeve: caterers who steal and keep the tips. I'm sure there's a million pet peeves I'm not thinking. And there's one caterer out in California who I don't mention by name, but yeah, they're known for not giving their staff the tips. I think there may be a lawsuit that's pending or something. But so, and sometimes they don't get a tip or whatever, and it's just you get your hourly pay. It's a decent hourly wage. It's not like really low, but
Sure.
if there is a tip, the server is supposed to get that tip, not the
Right.
captain or the. That was another thing. One of the captains was, you know, kind of keeping the tips, and we called her out on that one. But if it's a restaurant, I think yeah, it's more you rely more on the tips, I think, than in
Right.
a in catering. But yeah, and the tips range anywhere from $20 to maybe if you're really lucky at a house party $100. Funny stories. When you bring up tips too, I once worked in Ivana Trump's apartment like 25 years ago, I think. So we worked in her apartment for this caterer who's known to keep the tips. And she was actually nice and stuff, and we did everything was made of gold. I remember that.
Oh,
But
wow.
at the end of the event, we're all standing around, kind of around, and the guy that runs the caterer, she comes up to me with a big wad of bills. This is for all your staff. Thank you very much. Blah blah blah. So because she did it right in front of him, he had to give us something. So he go, oh, let me go divide it up in the back, and I'll be right back out, and blah blah
Oh,
blah. So we each got $20. Now we're sure she gave at least 50 for each person. So but we at least got something, and we wouldn't have gotten anything had she not done it right in front of everybody.
right.
But yeah, I hate when they're people who steal tips from people who need the money. It's not you're not
Right.
like stealing from a big corporation, who's ripping people off. Let's say you're stealing from
Right.
people working with you very hard who need that money. So
Right.
it's those are not good people.
Yeah. What is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
I don't know if it's the weirdest thing, but I don't think I'll be eating it ever again. Not because I wouldn't. All right, it was a certain kind of caviar, but I'm not a big caviar person. But we worked an event, a $5 million birthday party for twins. It was a 2-day event. They spent $5 million for these 3-year-old twins.
Wow.
And so they had jars of caviar, which are $50,000 each on each table or something like that, like one jar on each table. So we're like, there was a jar in the back, I guess. And so we all had to try it, of course, which I don't even
Right.
like caviar, but it's $50,000. I got to at least taste it. So
Right.
in a way, that is kind of the weirdest thing because I didn't eat it because I want to know how it tasted so much. But if this thing costs 50,000, I can say I ate. Now I can say I ate $50,000
Yeah.
caviar. So I think that's probably the weirdest thing. I know one of the companies I used to work for used to make that foie gras stuff or whatever,
Okay.
and I don't think I ever ate that. And then they stopped serving it because of the cruelty to the
Yeah.
animals. Yeah.
I want to know what people do that have a $3 million birthday party for twins.
Well, I think they were from Russia, and they owned most of the media in Russia or something. It's funny. Whenever I work for people like that, and I start to say, what am I doing wrong? Like, no, no, no. What are they doing wrong? Do they have that much money?
Yeah. Right. What do you recommend for a newcomer coming into the catering industry?
It is a certain amount of physical work and sometimes late hours. So be prepared for that. It's funny. One of the caterers, that you can put yourself when you're available. And I would always, after a while, I started just staying up to only 11:30 at night. Otherwise, you'd be there till 3 in the morning. And but if you're only available at a certain time, that's when they would book you. I think again, depends on the caterers they're working for and what state probably they live in and
Sure.
stuff. But so it's not the people who are at the party. It's not their fault if the caterer is a jerk. It's not their fault that um, certain things aren't happening. So still try to give good service. So it's if even if you're that's the one thing too. I can't say even if I'm not in like a great mood. I'm usually am, and even if I'm not, I had a bad day, or even if I'm whatever, I'm not going to take it out on the clients or the guests at the event.
Sure.
So I think that's important that they need to leave. If they're a bitter out of work actor, and they're have that attitude the whole night of catering, they shouldn't be doing catering. I mean, in anything that they're doing, just treat your fellow workers good. But I think that's for anything.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, don't do it. No I'm kidding.
Yeah. Right.
It's funny. In my book, How Catering Sucked the Life Right Out of Me, the first chapter is called The Pros of Doing Catering. And it's literally a blank page, and then it goes to chapter 2
That's funny.
as a joke. But like I said, I wouldn't have done it for that long if it wasn't, if there weren't perks to it and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
A newcomer. So one of the caterers I worked for years ago, he wouldn't really feed the staff. That's a pet peeve too. Like if you're working for them 7, 8 hours, you have to give your staff a
Yeah.
meal. You're serving food. So, but one caterer in New York, he said, "All right, I'm not gonna have time to give you guys a break or feed you really, whatever." But he goes, "A smart waiter never goes hungry." Meaning sneak food wherever you can. He's fine with that. Just be discreet. So
Yeah.
that's some advice I could give. If there's a caterer that's not feeding you, make sure you feed yourself.
Yeah,
It's fine.
right.
A lot of it depends on the individual and maybe why they're doing it. I think most people do it. A lot of them are students, or a lot of them do acting, or are
Sure.
musicians or artists. And it is one of the few you need that flexibility. So that's um, one of the things. Oh, and no, I won't say that. No, most celebrities are really nice, but and again, because I've worked in New York and California, I've worked more events with celebrities and stuff. So other people
Sure.
might be in other states that they don't that never comes up really. No, but one or two are kind of rude. So I was going to say, just beware of them. Never try to stop John Cougar Mellencamp from smoking at an event indoors. That's all I'm going to say. He
That's
cursed out
funny.
somebody once, but anyway,
The last year's been nice because it was like, okay, it forced me to take the time away from it, you know?
I got to say, I didn't really miss. I didn't really miss it.
Yeah.
Um, and people who say they get bored or whatever, I mean, I'm always writing stuff. Songs, books, scripts, like, so I don't get bored. I was at home a lot anyway doing stuff, and then, but it is, you do get a little stir crazy being inside
Sure.
and not being, there's no social things going on. But oh my God, I don't have enough time to do the writing and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I didn't really miss. In fact, last night, it's funny that we're having this today because last night I worked from 3:30 p.m. We were there till about, I think, 12:15, but they asked for 8 people to stay,
Okay.
and we were one of the 10 people that didn't want to stay, so we left at 12:15. But they were probably there till 1:30. It was still going on, this event. I mean, they had dessert at 11 or 11:30, but then at 12 they started passing around cheeseburgers and French fries like as a late
So
night
fun.
snack. And there was only like 40 guests left, but at that point, but no, I didn't want to stay and break down the rest of it. And just, yeah, and that's, I mean, newcomers too. I guess it's funny. Prepare them that, I mean, they might gain weight because of all the food they're around. They might eat it, and it's probably not the most. It's kind of fattening food, but at
Yeah.
the same time, you're getting a lot of times you're getting so much exercise, you're burning off the calories. So it might even out. I don't know, but
I feel
um,
like it does for a while, and then after so many years of doing it, like I feel like I plateaued. Like, okay, now I'm just used to doing 20,000 steps a day,
yeah,
so does it's not making any kind of difference, you know?
yeah,
And I agree too. Like I had a lot of friends during the shutdown. You know, I understand being like locked down and we can't do our normal, go about our normal things. But I've had so many people, oh, I'm so bored. I can't wait to get back to work. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I wish
yeah.
I had more time to, and I feel like people are like, you've had a year to do this, Michelle. Like, I just always have projects and stuff too, or ideas, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, you sound like a little bit like me. Yeah, it's like I could spend. I need more time to do those things. So, and it's funny when I work those long catering shifts. It's kind of motivating. Okay, I'm spending all this time and energy working for these people and not doing my stuff. So it kind of motivates me a little bit. Okay, the next day to do, let me spend 8 hours or working on my stuff and for my
Right.
project, not to put money in someone else's pocket.
Oh,
So
for sure.
so some of
Absolutely.
the tough jobs really kind of were more motivating because you can get sucked in. Actually, you really can, like, because it's not a bad gig a lot of the times, and it's
Right.
um you kind of get into a pattern of, I know so many people who they came to California to be actors, and they get so caught up in other stuff and or even catering that they're not even auditioning, they're not even going to
Sure.
classes, they're just catering. So you have to find the balance. I think that's very important. So I would tell people, if whatever their passion is, and if they're doing catering for, um, to make money while they're going towards their goals or passions, make sure you keep that balance of, do we have to do to make money, pay bills and stuff. But again, the less focus you put on your
I know.
passion, the less you're gonna, get done. So, and I think I think I've been okay with, part of me thinks if I really went full force with my writing and my acting, that years ago you move faster and along, but that you do kind of, you have to be realistic, you got to pay the bills and stuff. But
Sure.
then there's certain people, if they're really focused on that and they don't do catering, they don't do this, and they're just, this is what I'm going to do. A lot of times I think those are the people that because they're so focused. And but anyway, everyone has their own path, as they say, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, how long did it take you to write your book?
Um, so this was my second book. This went to about a year, I think. I did a lot of it during the pandemic.
Okay.
Um, I had the idea for it a couple of years ago and stuff. I always joked about the jobs, and I had the title years ago, like "How Catering Sucked the Life Right Out of Me," and I kept telling people I'm going to write that book. Um, I had a book before that called Rainbow Relatives
Okay.
on speaking to kids about LGBTQ families and friends. That one took me like 4 or 5 years to write because I interviewed people and I
Oh, cool.
I set it aside and did other things, and then you back to it. And then I got a literary agent and then a publisher. So all that took quite a few years. This
Sure.
one, I just, during the pandemic, got all this time, so I finished it, and then I just self-published it and put it out. I just wanted to take that route this time.
Okay.
And okay, everyone turned it down. No, I'm kidding. I didn't even submit it. I don't think I even submitted it, maybe to a couple places, but I felt this one was better to just self-publish, and it's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that. But there's pros and cons to both ways of doing it. But yeah, most of it I wrote. Let's see, the pandemic started in March of last year, so yeah, like in May and June, I really started working more on it, and then I got an editor, and she did,
Okay.
worked on it and stuff, and then yeah, we just put it out. And people don't know, like when you're writing, it's a lot of rewriting and rewriting. It's not you just write something that's done. It's like it's the rewriting. It takes hours and hours, and it's always good to let it marinate. Like write it and then look at it like a week later, and it looks different, or you can be more objective.
Oh,
You
for
know, so,
sure.
yeah.
Agree with that.
It's funny. In catering, I get a lot of ideas too for different. Uh, you know, I wrote a whole screenplay based on one catering job I did. They were auctioning off a puppy. Um, and I just thought, what if they're not supposed to be auctioning off this puppy? Like it's an accident. Somebody mistakenly gave this puppy to someone else. It belongs, and they're auctioning it off. And before I knew it, I had this whole idea for a script. Of a dog in New Orleans, there's a hurricane coming, and they can't find the dog, and they have to leave, and they come back, and it looks like the dog perished. They can't find him, and then the papers that mistakenly said that this couple perished, so the people who found the dog ended up auctioning it off at a benefit, and this evil old woman, a rich woman, bid on him accidentally as she shoot away a fly. And anyway, and the poor little kid that owns the dog, he was like 8 years old, and he knew his dog was still alive, and he even found it. Anyways, but this whole idea came from that one event. That
That's
my head
funny.
just goes, you know. So in some ways it's good, and I wrote some sketches and stuff because there is a lot of humor. You have to find the humor. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. So you self-published this one. So how did you go about finding a publisher for the other book? Like, how do you?
I hold on. I got this book, The Writer's Market 2018, at that time, and it gives advice on how to write a letter to get an agent and what they're looking for, and it lists publishers and agents and what they're looking for, and it's a really good book. And I wrote the query letter based on that, what they had told me. I sent it to 10 literary agents.
Nice.
One said send the first 5 chapters, so I did, but they didn't bite. And then another one said, yeah, I'd like to represent this book. And then it took him a couple months he got the publisher. And a lot of times you need an agent to get the publisher, not always,
Sure.
but but then we had an issue with the publisher and we lost the publisher. But then he found that was like the most depressing, because after all that work, and it's like, oh, I got a publisher and blah, blah. And then something happened, and it
Yeah.
was like really down. And then a couple months later, he got another. So I can say my book was good enough to get 2 years. So yeah, but it's a lot of work. I mean, that's more work almost than I came up with a 20-page, like business or book proposal of,
Okay.
what the book is about and who the target audience is. And so it goes over that in that book too. And I sent that to the agent and some publishers and stuff. And then for the second one, yeah, I just kind of, but the publisher, it's good to have a publisher because they do all
Yeah.
the expense stuff of the putting it together and the cover and the certain things. And I realized when I did mine, oh, I got to pay for all that, and I got to edit, and I got to pay for the editor that I get. Like they paid for that, So yeah, there's pros and cons, but they expect you to do all the work anyway. So, and then they take most of the money.
Right.
So, but each one has pros and cons. Like, if you get a publisher, it's easier to get in Barnes and Nobles and stores like
Right.
that, and just has more clout. In this day and age, it's still with social media and that kind of stuff, so you don't really always need.
So everyone has a book inside of them that they could write. What do you recommend for someone that wants to write their story, I guess?
Yeah, because a lot of people I hear a lot of people say, oh, I should write a book, or people tell them
Yeah.
they should write a book. And they either just don't, they procrastinate and don't. I think it's overwhelming to even think of it is, because I never thought I'd write a whole script. I never thought I'd write a whole book. But if you take it one step at a time, and at least if you start it,
Right.
some people don't even start, like just at least go to a computer. And it's so much easier now because years ago you had to do it on a typewriter that was like, like now you have this software, you have, or, and you can I think you can even talk into the thing and it can type it up for you even.
For
So
sure.
just start it and write, and maybe set a certain amount of time each day, even if it's 15 minutes or something. I mean, it's so funny. This whole Nike thing is just do it. And that I swear that expression really fits so many things. Like,
Yeah.
just that's as simple as that. Um, especially if you have a good, so a friend of mine, he hired me to kind of help him write his book because he doesn't
Nice.
know how to write a book. Not that I really do. I had two books. I sound like I'm an expert, but but helped him write it, and he had a great story. Um, but it sat around for years, and even when I was working with him, I would have to really push him, kind of,
Yeah.
So I don't know. People have to have that drive and that, but yeah, just show up and write and have other people, if you can, take a look at it. And well,
Sure.
I'm going to say that with a grain of salt or in a margarita. No, I have a song called "Take That with a Grain of Salt" and a Margarita about people who give unsolicited advice. Just I'm saying that because it is good to get feedback, but it's the same time you got to be careful who you're getting feedback from. Sometimes
Sure.
some people won't know what they're talking about, or they might be such a good friend they're not going to give you honest advice, or some people are bitter and whatever and they're going to
Well,
put you down no matter how good something is. But you do need to get like some kind of feedback, and
sure.
but just to get a feel of how, do you find this entertaining or do you find this interesting, or you know to get a feel for it. And if one or two people say something, again, you don't take it. If like eight people are saying, you know what, this eight people or a lot of people saying, hey, this is really good, oh good, I'm onto something. Or if they saying, yeah, it needs more or needs something, then
I definitely think you have to be choosy too. Yeah, 'cause like you said, some people are bitter because they never follow their dreams or anything, or are just
yes.
stuck in their rut and they're gonna try to talk you
Yeah.
out of it or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's
So it has to be someone you can trust their judgment
yeah,
and their. I think anyone's going to write something, you should do a lot of reading yourself too. Like if you're going to write a book and you've hardly read any books, that's probably not a good thing. So I would always say read. Oh, so you
yeah,
can look, even if you just, or look at other books that are similar to what you're writing. Ah, that's a good one. Okay.
yeah, for sure.
So whatever you feel your story is, look and see if there's other books out there similar already, which is not necessarily a bad thing
Right,
because it means there's a market for it. Although if there's a million of them, then you might say, okay, who's going to be interested in mine? It has to be different
right.
than those stories. So if you still have something that's different or you can tell it in a different way, that's great. I'm not an organized person as far as like, okay, I'm going to write this week,
Yeah,
5 days at this time to this time. I can't do that, which I should do that more. I think you really should. But I'm good enough as far as I'm motivated enough where I will do a certain amount though during that week. I don't know when I'm going to do it yet, and I have to,
right.
depends what else comes up. And I also am not a writer where I plan exactly. Okay, I'm between pages 1 and 30. This is going to happen between 30 and 60. No, I might know where it's going to start and where it's going to end, or the different topics or subjects I'm going to have in there,
Sure.
and then I may reorganize it. That happens all the time. But some people are more ODC, I guess, where they have to know exactly, which is fine. Whatever works best for that person
Oh,
is
for
what.
sure.
That part comes in more when you're rewriting, I think, or finishing something, or because you do have to have a little discipline for that stuff, not just wait till you're motivated. But yeah, the best,
Sure.
like I'm half asleep when ideas come to me and I got my phone and I call it out. If like motivation's not striking you for like a month or something, then yeah, you have to do it at other times too, probably. And
Right.
sometimes if you sit there and start it, you'll start to get motivated or get more ideas. Like sometimes it just takes, I think, sitting down to do it. And you might sit there for like 10 minutes and it's not going anywhere, but
Right.
you're going to force yourself, I think, but you should. And if it's really not coming, go do something fun and just come back to it later.
Yeah.
And because that is going to free up your mind. I get my best ideas at the gym when I'm on the life
Yeah.
cycle. If I'm driving and I'm half asleep, those are when I mean, I've gotten, song ideas and, um, because you're just not even trying, and
Yeah.
that's when you're most creative in some ways. But for the more detailed stuff, like I said, when you're rewriting stuff or you're going back, that's when that's when you kind of make the time to do those kind of things. It's not as much about the motivation or the idea that originally came. It's more finessing it, or
Sure.
so you don't need as much. I don't think I really get writer's block hardly. Well, I don't know. Maybe it depends. I have some scripts that I started but never finished, but I have like 14 that I've finished. So it's not like I
Right.
don't finish. Like some people don't finish any.
Yeah.
But the ones that aren't, that means maybe they're not meant to be, or they're not going. I haven't figured out where those are going to go. So maybe that is a type of writer's block, or maybe there is nowhere for it to go. So
Right.
I just leave that one to the side.
Sure.
There's 40 pages that, you know.
So what do you see next for yourself? Like you're working on a bunch of projects, it sounds like, but what is
I'm actually, yeah. So I'm trying to shoot another film I wrote. It's a family inspirational film, and we actually got a letter of intent from like 4 years ago from Olympia Dukakis. She read the
Oh,
script,
nice.
wanted to do it, and so we were trying to get it made. And I knew it was iffy even
Yeah.
4 years ago. And then I heard recently she wasn't doing too well, and then yesterday, was it yesterday she passed away or the day
Yeah,
before? I can't.
sometime this weekend. I don't remember.
Yeah. So I knew it was coming, and I knew she wasn't going to be in it. But it was kind of nice that we'd gotten a letter of intent from her that she liked the script.
Yeah, that's
Um,
really cool, actually.
so yeah, I'm trying to. And Jolie Fisher is going to direct it. I don't know if you know her. She's more of an actress and singer, and she's just getting into directing and stuff. But she's well connected, which is cool. And I mean, we're trying to get money for that. That's always I hate that part. It's
Yeah.
like takes forever. But so that's my next film project. I have another book, kind of a gift humor book. It's for pet lovers, and
Oh, nice.
so it's a calendar and a book. But it's a really cute, very original idea, and I'm hoping that comes out. Again, we may just self-publish that, but that one I think the concept of it is really cute and not done before. I don't think so. I
Nice.
think a publisher may pick that up, but that's the other thing. You got to wait a whole year. Like first of all, you have to
Yeah.
send out the things, wait 2 months to hear from them. Then even if they do pick it up, it takes them a year to finish doing
Right.
everything for your book to come out. So those are other things. But other than that, I have some songs I've been writing that are being recorded by one or two people. So that's kind of cool. And
Nice.
yeah, just try to get more of my projects made, and try to do only writing and commercial work and no catering.
Nice. Yeah, right.
I have scripts that I just want to. They don't really buy them. Well, I guess you get paid as the writer a certain amount, and they go ahead and shoot
Sure.
it. So I have a lot of scripts I want. I'm trying to have. Hopefully that will happen,
Nice.
and then I would just get paid as a writer. But I don't. I like writing. I'm not really producing is okay, but it's not as creative, and it's
Sure.
I don't know as much of what I'm doing, but the process I love. It's just but getting stuff made is that's. I'll hold up the book then.
Yeah, please do for sure.